Yes, Chairman. Can I request you to start?
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, or rather good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the first and after the inaugural session, the first subject session of the E-commerce Retail Supply Chain Summit 2022. This session is named as Rethinking Supply Chain for Omni-Channel Shopper of E-commerce Retail Supply Chain. A small word about my panelists and presenters. Our presenter is Mr. Varun Wadhwa, Director of Consulting Business at KPMG. He has close to 2 decades of experience in consulting business and is going to be giving a presentation, more or less giving the entire lay of the land that where does the omni-channel space lie today. So he'll give you a description of what he thinks is where omni-channel retail is. We have Pratik Shkayan. He's the National Transportation Lead for Mondelez. He spent his 15 years tenure in FMCG supply chain sector. Mondelez, of course, now most of us know, but for the uninitiated, is the owner of a lot of chocolate brands, including Cadbury and a lot of other brands. Rishabh is a leading quick e-commerce, is leading the quick e-commerce at Shiprocket. Shiprocket, as you know, has just turned unicorn, and it's one of the more recent phenomenons in e-commerce supply chain, which has turned unicorn and brings a lot of differentiated offerings to the table. So we'll like to share his experience. He's also an alumni of IIT Delhi and IIM Lucknow. We also have Mr. Sebastian Derrick. He's heading the supply chain of consumer goods, retail and e-commerce at TVS Supply Chain Solutions. He has close to 16 years experience in this sector and will be giving his perspective from the service provider side as to how the service provider sees the omni-channel retail supply chain. So gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Ravi Mathur, he's joined us on audio only because there was a change in his schedule and he's in transit. So welcome, Ravi.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for accommodating my request.
Yeah, no problem. So I leave the dais to Varun to start his presentation, and then we will post some interesting questions to all the other panelists and take this session forward. And after we are done with the panel discussion and panelists, we'll leave enough time for you to give your questions also. Any questions that you have that come to your mind during the session or during the presentation, please put it in the chat and we'll address it when the right time comes. Thank you very much, and over to Varun.
Thanks, Anil. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Great. So thanks for the confirmation, Anil, and hello everyone. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, we're still in the morning hours, so good morning. And as Mr. Anil introduced this session, we're talking about omni-channel, right? And the idea here is to cover the topic of rethinking supply chains for the omni-channel shopper. I'm going to have a brief presentation of about 7-8 slides, giving a perspective on this. Before that, just a quick introduction from my side, in addition to what Mr. Anil covered. My name's Varun. I'm a director in the practice at KPMG. I focus largely on transport and logistics. I have about 10 years of experience now of consulting in this sector. My focus of consulting is not just on strategy, but also a lot of transaction advisory. And in that instance, we work with a lot of corporate clients, PE investors, and service buyers as well, right? So some of the companies that I can talk about is DHL, FedEx, Bain Capital, Partners Group, so many others that I've kind of worked with in the recent years just to cover the sector. And in addition, I've had the opportunity to work in multiple geographies as well, right? So I've covered not just work in India for the sector, but also kind of markets like Singapore, Hong Kong, Middle East, so UAE, Saudi. So a well-diversified perspective as well on the sector and how we've kind of been seeing certain trends play out, right? So I think that's one perspective that I bring into this discussion as well, right? So just to take you through the discussion forward, the agenda will be broadly broken down into 3 parts from my side. I'll just kind of give you a brief perspective on what and how we define omni-channel retail as, right? Because it's a very loosely used term, is at least what I realized over a period of time, right? So one is just to kind of define what the sector is. Second is what is the impact of omni-channel retail on overall supply chain and logistics of companies, and how do we see that playing out, is something that we will talk about. And lastly, we'll talk about certain elements on enablers as success factors for the omni-channel strategy. So if I have your permission, I'll just go straight in and we'll talk to you about firstly on what we define omni-channel retail as, right? So just to kind of give you a sense on what omni-channel retail is, right? I think it's a very busy image that's been put out, but I think if you look at it, it's essentially that's what omni-channel is. I think it's simply defined as order anything from and get delivered from anywhere. So you can imagine yourself as a customer who's walked into a retail outlet, want a particular size of shoes, a pair of shoes, right? Not necessarily that's available in the same store, but it could be available at a nearby store, or could be available at a nearby warehouse, or it could be available at a third party logistics, e-commerce logistics website as well, right? So I think it could be these multiple channels where it can get fulfilled from. It's a complex process, but that's what essentially omni-channel is, right, today. When you look at it from, when you talk about the numbers and the size of the market, right, I think omni-channel is essentially a subset of the overall retail market when we look at it. And interestingly put, when we look at our retail market, India has a retail market of about $1 trillion market size in USD dollar terms. And this market's expected to grow at about 8% in the next coming 5 to 10 years. But when we look at the omni-channel market, right, this market is at a very, very nascent stage, and it's at a fraction, in fact, when you look at it to the overall retail market size, only about $300 million. And this is expected to grow at a rapid pace of about 30-35%. And one of the key drivers of this push has been the pandemic, right? Just to kind of also give you some perspective in the following slide, more brands that we've seen, right, have adopted to an omni-channel strategy post the pandemic. This is mainly because the realization that there was so much inventory lying at stores, and how can we kind of operationalize that and put that to good use. That has been one of the key drivers for companies to kind of have a focus on an omni-channel strategy. So pre-pandemic, when we were kind of in the market speaking to a few companies on their strategy on omni-channel, we realized that only less than 10% of large retail chains, right, had started thinking about omni-channel strategy. And now when we interact with companies, every second company or third company is talking about having an omni-channel strategy. Be it the bigger brands that I put on the right side of the slide, be it like Adidas, Nike, Puma, who kind of always had a solid thinking around this. But we've also started to see a lot of local, smaller national brands as well, who've started to build a strategy around omni-channel. Interestingly, the reason why, of course, one is to kind of put the inventory to good use. But in addition to that, what happens is that there is a better customer delight experience that comes through with an omni-channel strategy. And these are proven through statistics that companies have recorded in the last couple of years of performance of an omni-channel strategy. One, they've seen better spends. They've seen better customer loyalty. They've also seen a better realization per customer at the end of the day, right? And the other thing is that companies who've been able to successfully implement a solid omni-channel strategy, they've also been seeing a lot of saving in terms of inventory volumes that they've been having to manage at various points. The turnover ratios of these inventory has kind of increased up to 10% for certain large companies. When I talk about companies like Adidas, Nike, they've seen such great improvements in not just their customer experiences, but also financials at the end of the day. But having said that, it's not easy, right? Omnichannel, as we basically talked about in the previous slide, it's order anywhere, fulfill from anywhere, right? And in that case, what happens is that your supply chain is no longer a very straightforward linear structure. Imagine a situation, customers ordering from any of these platforms, the product gets fulfilled from either the mother warehouse, the regional hubs, or the stores nearby. And the mode of transportation also not very clear at that point of time, right? It is, if there are multiple such orders, then you may want to use a one-tonner. If it's a single piece order, you may want to use a bike delivery. If it's getting fulfilled from a mother warehouse, regional warehouses, first of all, the TAT is definitely going to be way off than what a customer would expect. And the delivery, fleet size, cost, etc. Everything will be different, right? So the point here is that supply chains no longer linear in an omni-channel model, retail model, right? And this requires a lot of agility and ability to kind of have the ability to kind of fulfill orders from various stocking points, including the retail outlet now, right? So taking you through the challenges that some of these companies are seeing. I think firstly, in order to kind of have a robust omni-channel supply chain, I think the biggest challenge that we've seen through discussions with many of these companies is the inventory visibility. You really don't have real-time visibility on the volume of goods, the SKUs of various SKUs of goods that you have at stocking points, at transit points, and also the retail point that you're selling it at, right? I think these updates are not just done, they're never live. They're either done in batches, and these batches can vary as less as 1 day, but it goes for like 2 to 3 days also for certain lesser mature organizations as well. And in this case, it sees a lot of uncertainty and inaccuracy in terms of inventory data that we end up capturing, right? The other thing is that we've seen companies have a siloed approach, right? By siloed approach, I mean the supply chains are still not integrated. While companies do want to look at omni-channel, but there's a different section which kind of looks at e-commerce supply chain strategy. There's a different department in an organization that looks at modern trade, traditional retail, and now also they've kind of started to create a subset on omni-channel strategy. But that cannot be the success mantra. The success mantra, what has to be thought of is basically on how you can integrate all of this. Having different vendors for different channels is also kind of creating some level of complexity in terms of delivering a solid omni-channel model. Further, what's happening is also that the entire fulfillment process, given that there are so many stakeholders involved, given that there are so many channels where the product can get fulfilled from, including the retail outlet, there is a higher degree and a higher chance where we've been seeing that the fulfillment ratios of orders have kind of dipped in terms of the error rate, right? We've seen a lot of errors. Either the shirt size would not be accurate, either the color would not be accurate. That's because of this complexity of multiple hands that are kind of now involved in managing the whole supply chain, including the retail outlet now, right? And lastly, I think the most important piece is that reverse logistics is becoming more and more complex, especially in categories like fashion. Imagine a situation where you have ordered a product, it's got fulfilled from a store nearby, but it's now since you have not appreciated the size or the color that's been shared with you and you would want to change, and you request for a reverse. But in that case, this reverse never goes back to the store. The company has to figure a reverse back to the warehouse where it gets refurbished, packaged, and put back on the shelf. So there's a lot of cost that's involved in it. They have to empanel a separate vendor to manage the reverse of it. And then again, included in the regular inventory to go back on the shelf at the retail outlet. So a lot of this movement is kind of disrupting profitabilities of this model, and is causing inertia for companies to look at omni-channel in a more exciting and a more serious way, right? So just lastly, I think to touch upon, right, I think what we would like to say is that I think when you look at an successful omni-channel retail strategy, right, I think there are broadly three pillars that one has to focus on. One, supply chain strategy. It has to be integrated. You can't have silos. You can't have different channel partners for different retail models that a company has. So it cannot be that a more traditional setup for modern trade, companies like delivery, Ecommerce Express looking at online channel, but and a different partner for omni-channel. I mean, you have to have a more integrated approach for a supply chain strategy on omni-channel. Second is inventory transparency. I think having a more live update, a live feed on what stock is kept at what point and in what quantity is crucial, because that's where your retail outlet comes as a successful mantra to help fulfill orders that are coming in from the customers. And lastly, to kind of enable all of this, right? I think while technology is a loosely used term and a broadly painted brush across the sector, but I think more so even with omni-channel, it's very important to have a robust technology, because we all realize that as and when supply chain gets complex, data is essential to kind of solve for the complexity, and the data can be extracted and solved only through technology. Investments in this area is really critical, and we've seen companies who have kind of had a successful outcome in omni-channel have made serious in-house investments and bets, right, to kind of solve for some of these challenges around inventory transparency and supply chain as well. So that's just my limited take on omni-channel, and just a brief perspective on what is omni-channel and the challenges and what are the pillars of success for you, right? Anil?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Varun. Thank you for your thank you for letting or sharing with everybody what the lay of the land in an omni-channel supply chain means. Of course, you being from the consulting background could have explained it best, because most of us get lost in the jargon most of the time. And, in supply chain space, over the last few years, every year there is a new jargon and, people start running behind it. But this is, I think, a reality that everybody has to face and deliver up to. In fact, in my MOVE program, I had a session where we compared supply chains of these Blinkit and dark stores, just in time supply to a Kirana supply, and see which one of them will outlast the other. What came out was that the omni-channel supply chain is here to stay, and technology will play a part, right? So thank you very much for being as descriptive as required. I would like to call on Mr. Ravi Mathur and ask him a simple question which has a very difficult answer. Is that since he has a diverse experience of various geographies, or he deals for his principles, he handles various geographies. What do you see as the global best practices that are there in an omni-channel supply chain in a go-to market, or in a market that you feel is a lot more evolved than the Indian market? Ravi, can you come online, please? You're on the mute.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Anil and Varun. Great perspectives. Yes, we have exposure to multiple international markets, and each geography has its own unique challenges. But I'll just try to add on to what Varun said. The biggest challenge over here is about inventory visibility, and pick up from his talk itself. Uh, omni-channel, as we have rightly discussed, it's about flexibility, right? Now it's flexibility about from a customer perspective, and that leads to a flexibility that an organization needs to develop. If the customer is looking to kind of place an order and experience the product from a channel of his choice, then the company also has to kind of organize itself to be able to fulfill the order that might be coming from any channel. Now, as he had rightly pointed out, creating visibility for the organization itself is a big challenge. There is inventory which is in transit. There is inventory which is at the last mile at the retail store. It could be at a retail store that you don't directly control yourself, and you require this inventory to be available in a fungible way, right? So the optimization of inventory is something that one constantly needs to kind of evolve continuously and see how uh, how we can have technology come in and create that visibility layer. Okay, but that is first part of the challenge. The other thing on technology, which is like a bigger challenge, if you just flip the question, and ask yourself this question from a customer perspective. Okay, now as a customer, if I'm looking for a particular SKU, say I'll kind of draw from my own experience when at one point of time I was looking for a formal jacket, and I needed it rather urgently. I had to make a call to 4 lifestyle stores and 4 West Side stores to find out where it is available, so that I can go to the correct store and go and pick up that material. Now try creating that visibility for the customer, that when he's picking up, now today I can switch between what is available on Amazon and what is available on the store. But if I have that kind of a visibility across stores and across brands, that's a different kind of a challenge. And that technology for creating visibility for a user experience is not there. So I mean that you can reuse that technology, or kind of repurpose it, to use the term. But that is the next level of experience that customers around the globe are waiting to experience. I don't know how accurately I answered your question, but those are my opening thoughts on the subject.
No, I wanted a short perspective on which market do you think is a go-to market in omni-channel supply chain, where you are most comfortable operating and you think the systems or the ecosystem is evolved enough to be a showcase for the rest of the geographies.
Okay, so I'll answer from a pharma perspective. So pharma is not really friendly when it comes to omni-channel, because it's a regulated market, and there are scheduled drugs that can be sold only on a prescription. Okay, so as far as over-the-counter drugs are concerned, maybe you can create an omni-channel experience the way FMCG or other retail organizations do it. But I think India, yes, that maturity is already there. There are multiple channels which exist even today as we are speaking. So I think India is poised to take that leap. And of course, in the western side, their evolved geographies are there, where it is far more mature to take the leap onto the next level of omnichannel experience. But here, I think yes, that experience, that ecosystem, primarily because we can leverage on the work that has already been done by the other industries. So I think we can do that in India. It's a very exciting market. It's a growing market. The rate of growth is interesting and something that keeps you exciting. So that would be my response to your question.
Right. Thank you very much. Now I'll take it to the action guys, Prateek and Rishabh. What I would like to know your experience in Prateek is that how do you see the emergence of dark stores? Are they here to stay? Will they compete with the Kirana? Because dark store is something which is doing more or less, an omni-channel supply chain delivery, and it's the latest phenomenon after the omni-channel has come in and the reduced time of delivery has come in. So dark store is something which a lot of service providers are also trying to address for, so it seems to be a byproduct of the omni-channel and the quick delivery system that you know.
Yeah. So thanks, Anil. Thanks, Varun, for the inciting presentation. So first of all, this particular word dark store is something that we have started hearing much more post-pandemic or during pandemic. But this concept existed at least since 2014 onwards. And like Varun mentioned in his presentation, like we cannot have a multi-channel strategy. It has to be an omni-channel strategy, right? And there is a difference between a multi-channel and an omni-channel. We need to have an integrated strategy both for a offline, online, or let's say uh, a mix of both. So how does dark store fit into this? So post pandemic, dark stores came into existence because it was the only way where where many organizations or many stores could have existed. It was an existential kind of solution for many of the retailers. Dark store slash cloud kitchen, more or less a similar kind of concept is what we can. When the movements and everything were restricted, it just popped out everywhere. Now in the post pandemic world, where talking specifically from an India perspective, in 2017, approximately 27% of the population used to use internet, that is around 350 odd million. Currently, more than 800 million in 2022 use internet, out of which the online shopping is more than 200, 300 million in India itself. So now no organization or retailers can exist in one particular format. But there is a history that why do offline stores still exist? Because of the personal touch that it provides and in store shopping experience. Now coming on to how dark store can blend both of these two things: the convenience of an online shopping versus the personal touch of a in-store shopping. So many of the organizations or many of the retail chains of see is somewhat kind of they have evolved with a model of dark store, which is not exactly 100% so-called dark store that we have in the traditional e-commerce setup. It is a blend of a in-store kind of where the in-store phenomena is allowed, click and collect phenomena is allowed where consumers can come and collect their thing, and third part is it also serve as a fulfillment center. So these are the new models that are mushrooming with the kind of omni-channel strategy that many organizations are bringing up. Giving a prime example of some of the great success stories in terms of omni-channel, Nykaa, Lenskart, DMart, all these organizations have really aced the omni-channel model. How are they able to do? There are two parts to it here again. One is a technology enabler which supports the online piece. Second comes the backend or the downstream enabler, that is the supply chain backbone of this entire thing. So if you see the augmented reality that many of the organizations are putting up, it gives a personal touch and an in-house shopping experience. But once a customer goes to the store, they can do two things. They can do the in-house shopping there, as well as they can just pick up their order which was serviced via the or which was sold via the augmented reality on their virtual platform. So these are the new ideas or initiatives that I see are mushrooming, and given the pressures on the retail margins, dark stores are there to stay, and they are just going to evolve with the old school dark store model, that it is just used as a warehouse where people movement or customer movement are not allowed, and it will more or less it will be used, let's say, as a just as a warehouse kind of thing, small warehouse with 5,000 square feet warehouse, which are not located in malls or high streets. But that's not going to be the case moving forward, is what my feeler is, because an important blend where the customers get the best of the service, in shopping experience, the agility, and it gives organizations flexibility to experiment and iterate with the business ideas. Because we talk about, like you were saying, we have been hearing a lot of jargons of late. AIML is one of the jargons, right? But this is something that is actually aiding data analytics. Artificial intelligence is something that is actually aiding many of these organizations to ensure how we develop this whole idea. A small example I'll take. Let's say data analytics throws that red iPhones are sold in North India, whereas blue iPhones are mostly sold in southern part of India. So bringing this technology enabler in the dark stores will help which will help better support on the inventory piece, because we will be able to have right inventory at the right place, as well as it will help pool in the inventory of in-store, online, click and collect kind of thing, to have a better inventory pooling overall. So I feel that this is actually a way of the future, but it will definitely evolve from a traditional dark store model for an omni-channel piece.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a very good perspective that you see dark stores as evolving into something more than a dark store, and then the game gets interesting between a retail store and a dark store. Very, very interesting perspective. Thank you very much, Prateek. Now I'll go to Rishabh, and Rishabh, my question to you is that what are the newer customer touch points that are coming? Dark store is a one touch customer touch point, right? Or right now it's not a customer touch point, it's a supply point, which Prateek sees that, in an omni-channel environment, it will sooner or later evolve into a customer point also. But there are other, terminologies or other things being tried out for last few years in various technologies, like, drop shipping came a few years back, and, then that was the buzzword. It worked very well in certain geographies, it didn't. Today, we hear about secure lockers, again, drop shipping or secure locker or common lockers, car trunk delivery, Kudo systems. So what do you think are the new points? Because ShipRocket is actually linking the last mile or working at giving customers a better experience of the delivery part. So what do you think are the newer touch points?
Yeah, thanks, Anil, for the question. I guess in terms of supply chain point of view, I guess we are like still grappling this particular problem, right? This mass adoption of this customer touch point and consolidating these last mile orders to some drop location, as you mentioned, right? These Pudo networks, these secure lockers. And what I believe is that like during this particular pandemic, it has taken a setback, but yeah, currently post-pandemic situation for these customer touch points actually has steadily has increased, right? And I guess there's a huge adoption that could be there that is underlying in this the drop Pudo network that is around there, right? And what I see is that the key elements that are there in the overall this supply chain puzzle is basically the RTO deliveries, the lost and stolen products actually, and difficulty in navigating these urban and rural locations, right? And the whole purpose is basically to increase the fulfillment, right, and with a better cost. So what I see is this as a very feasible solution, and I believe there are three key levers to drive this for the customers in India. Is basically one being the market motivation that is there, and there is the consumer motivation, and third being the overall network effect around it. Okay, in terms of market, you see that all the courier service providers need is basically to have an easy access of the drop-off location, right? And what they can do is to basically drive the consumer behavior out of it. I guess like having a differential pricing between a kind of a residential delivery and a commercial delivery, will that make that shift to move that consumer behavior? But yeah, but coming to that particular retailer part of it, I guess this whole omni-channel uh, has already been, I guess, accelerated all the things, right? Even the retailers right now are very much like motivated to bring down their cost of rent, and like everything is digitized now, right? And these brick and mortar retail stores like wanted to serve the community and actually like increase the footfall, right? So what I see is in the near future is basically the consolidation of these drop points. I guess Amazon has already done it, right? They have almost like 1 lakh retailers touch points for their Kirana stores drop off location, right? So the market needs some kind of consolidation, and it's feasible for. I guess this is the chunk where like we need to have some kind of alternate solutions for our customers.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your perspective, Rishabh. And I think consolidation is the key. How quickly or how much time does it take will be a question that only time can answer. Derek, the question to you is that is the omni-channel supply chain only, for the lack of a better word, a snitch of the rich, right? The bigger companies can talk about it, or what happens to a smaller brand, a regional brand who wants to build a national presence and supply omni-channel? Is it feasible? Can they do it? What investments do they, in your mind, do they need to make, or which direction do they need to take their supply chain strategy in if they are looking at an omni-channel supply chain, particularly the smaller companies who are stressed for, I won't say stressed for capital because that will be a wrong notion, but who want to be very cost competitive with their products.
Yeah. So Anil, I think all organizations, irrespective of the size and the scale that they plan to grow to, have no other option but to go for an omni-channel in future. How much they go into which parts of the omni-channel journey they take more seriously, where they focus, that may slightly differ from the larger organizations. But definitely they have to go for it. For an example, if a small organization, basically an e-commerce company, a D2C company, which wants to expand sitting in a tier 2 city or a tier 1 city, they may not focus too much on the brick and mortar side of it or how delivery happens on that, but they will still need to focus on what delivery they do for e-commerce, what they do in marketplaces, what they do in social commerce. So it's just a basic difference in the ratio that the focus will change for these clients, but in the end, they will have to do it. I think we also, for smaller organizations, and especially whatever work we do with D2C brands, the focus might be slightly different, more on data collection, understanding customer, using omni-channel, because sitting in a tier 2, tier 1 city, before they go and invest money into expansion across multiple locations, they have the ability, just by having presence in multiple channels, to collect information which helps them in segregating their customers, identifying which areas to go into, how to effectively spend money, where to market, where not to market. So these are all advantages that smaller companies can take out of omni-channel. Maybe for larger clients, it is more about the product actually being there and being seen on the table on different stores and different channels. But for smaller clients, this information is much more relevant in the growth stage than actually having products available across multiple channels. It gives them the backup that they require, the confidence that they require for the next set of journey of acceleration that they would take.
Great. So listen to it carefully, retailers. You don't have an option but to look at omni-channel and start supplying or start putting in supply chains to supply the orders from wherever, whenever they come. And moving on, it brings out certain questions, and anybody on the dais is, free to share their view on the question is, for an omni-channel supply chain, there are three factors that I think that have come out, which are a kind of a gray area, which is the cost, the predictability, or whether what time, and somebody's touched on it also already, that what time will it reach and how will it reach, because the difference between a warehouse supplying and a retail store in another geography supplying, how many touch points more it will be creating. So there is a predictability issue. Also, in omni-channel supply chain, I feel that, and being an old man in the market, that India has been India, the retail experience is always, a bunch of spikes. It's never constant, right? We are a very diverse country. We have so many festivals. We have so many rituals. So the meat supply chain goes down in Navratra times, or meat demand, retail demand goes down in Navratra time, or, some garment demands push up in Diwali time. So how does an omni-channel supply chain handle these spikes? So this is what, the questions that have come to my mind, and anybody wants to take a spike at the first one, which is the cost, can please go ahead.
I think if I may add here, right, I think in my view, it's when you look at omni-channel in particular, right, it's not really a spike that's the key concern here. I think the key concern in my limited view is the urgency that has to be addressed, right? And by urgency, when I mean to say is that, as one of the examples that was pointed out here was, imagine ordering a jacket from Lifestyle. We had to call for stores, get a sense. I mean, the idea was to kind of get it fulfilled in like 2 hours, 3 hours, or a day's window at best, right? So I think the problem statement essentially lies on because the spike during those seasons that we're talking about is generally there for the entire sector, right? And the entire brand itself. So capacity is anyways is built to cater to that. But I think it's more to do with that intense urgent need. How do you kind of address that? And that is, I think, is the more pressing problem to address than anything else. And just on cost, right? I think the limited point or view that I have on this is that, see, today if you look at it, which are the brands who've had the ability to implement a successful omni-channel strategy, right? Either a more structured or a crude way of doing it, of putting calls, WhatsApps across stores, etc. I mean, just look at it. Which are the brands? These are more popularly known brands of Nike, Puma, Adidas, iPhone. If you want a Gucci bag, etc., and all, they'll figure out, right, which store it's available. They'll kind of ensure it's shipped out from there. Why have these brands been able to see such a successful omni-channel strategy, right? I think you go to an iPhone store, you want a particular GB size, particular color. If it's not there in that phone store, they'll get it fulfilled from the nearby store. Why have they been able to kind of create a robust strategy on that? Is because the value of these goods are high, right? They can absorb greater logistics costs that are needed to kind of fulfill this requirement. But I think that is one part of the whole solution on higher value goods. But the other part is that the customer there is slightly more evolved also. They're very clear on what they want. If a person who's going and buying an iPhone product, he knows he wants a red color 128 GB phone. He doesn't want anything else, right? So the odds of returns, the odds of reverse logistics, etc., reduce. Similarly, when somebody is going and buying a Gucci bag, they know what they want, right? That also is an important element, that whole maturity of a customer. Imagine doing that for a t-shirt, right? You may have ordered a red color t-shirt of 32 size, but there would have been a data entry issue. There would have been a picking and packing issue at the other store. Or for some reason, that fitting of that particular shirt did not suit you well, right? Or t-shirt did not suit you well. So you want to kind of issue a reverse logistics. Can the product absorb the cost? At least in the current realm of things and the technology that we have, I don't see that happening. And that's my limited take on how I see this to play out, right?
That's a great perspective, Varun. Anil, I'd like to pick up your point on the cost, and I'll add up from where add on from where Varun actually left. See, the strategies that most of these big organizations they have implemented for being a successful omni-channel player is people tend to build redundancies. See, when you have alternate channels, the obvious conclusion is that there is inventory lying in an alternate channel. So that is the first level of redundancy that is getting built. Then for every supply chain activity like fulfillment, last mile delivery, again, you have separate set of activities being planned out. So this cost is actually getting incurred, getting built by design, because you are trying to be flexible, you're trying to be available to the customer, whichever point of contact he wishes to contact you from. So the next level of cost reductions will necessarily come from getting efficiencies in design. Okay, now there's a redundancy in inventory, there's a redundancy in the workforce that is actually out for delivery. If you're talking about multiple collection points like secure lockers or car deliveries, again, you are creating, you're adding to the cost by creating more and more channels. So I think the next level of innovation that will come in this sector is by bringing in Uberization at different layers of this supply chain. So I can start from a very simple example. Different organizations will today for last mile delivery will probably contract out the last mile delivery to different delivery organizations. Okay. Now, supposing each delivery organization has its own work pool for making that last mile delivery. So you have a wastage over there by design. I think in the near future, you have a scope or a business space where a big company comes in and aggregates that demand of last mile delivery. Okay. And it creates a Uberized pool of delivery boys. Today you call it moonlighting because, the person is also working for Swiggy, is also working for Zomato. Okay. But going forward, it will be organized where just like a Uber car, the nearest capacity is allocated to a demand for a pickup of a car. The nearest pickup boy will be allocated irrespective of, agnostic of which is the customer, which is the brand he's serving, which is the store he's serving, where he's picking up for, and where he's delivering. Similarly, secure lockers. If every company goes out and tries to set up a secure locker setup, it's going to add to phenomenal cost. But secure locker setup Uberized across multiple e-commerce players, that will bring the cost down. So these kind of redesigning and rejigging of your listings, of your supply chains are required, which will ensure that your cost really does not go up. And at the end of the day, we must all realize this is nothing more than a supply chain design problem. Okay. Think of it, the multiple holding points, multiple delivery points, multiple levels of inventory holding. Think of it as a warehouse management system in a large area network, right? Once you have that inventory visibility, at which point of time, how much inventory is there, then it simply becomes an optimization issue. Then you have data sets coming out from your demand forecast, from your supply forecast, but creating that data visibility and those capturing each and every node in a country as big as India, with a few thousand supply chain nodes. But if you think of it as a large area network warehouse, then you simply need to do a warehouse management system. So you know where to pick up from, where to put it, and where to dispatch it. So I think these sort of interventions will bring the efficiencies and bring the cost down. So that is my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, this brings me to the next question, which is also coming from somewhere in the audience. And anyways, I was planning to ask Varun around it. Is that what I hear is that technology is a must to run an efficient omni-channel supply chain, whether it's on the front end or in the back end. On the front end, creating that customer experience, but more on that back end, once the experience is created and the sale is locked, supplying it in the most cost-effective way in the least amount of time. So, Varun, there is a question from the audience also, that how latest technology like Industry 4.0, SAP S/4HANA impact or benefit omni-channel supply chain in terms of traceability and tracking of goods in the retail sector, from order placement to return management. So I'll mix and match these two questions. Is that what is the role of technology that you see, or what kind of technologies that are coming or need to be invested in?
Right. I think technology out here, right, is super critical, right? Firstly, as we discussed earlier as well, the more complex the issue, the greater the ability of technology to solve for it. I mean, one, of course, as we discussed earlier, all the artificial intelligence, machine learning that we are seeing through all the data that's being churned by various companies, right? It's helping with the entire process of demand planning at various clusters. There is a pattern. There is a difference in color choices, right? An iPhone red will be sold more in North, and iPhone blue will be sold more than West. There is this difference. And companies have started to kind of process data to learn more and more about this. I think when you just look at one single order, right? I mean, let's visualize this. That's being placed in an omni-channel, and let's take the omni-channel here as a retail store, and where we see tech being involved, and where do you think, I mean, which are the various decision steps where tech actually can come in and solve for the whole issue? First step, the customer places the order, right? The order has to be entered correctly. There has to be a right entry of what is the size of the garment that or product that's been needed, color. You need to have a sense on what is the inventory, not just in the nearby stores, but also for warehouses nearby, right? And that will not just be live inventory. You also should be able to have visibility on the upcoming 2 days, right? Because these stores around you or warehouses close to you may have stock coming in for that particular product in the next 48 hours. It makes more sense to fulfill it from there rather than at a point of time noticing that there is no inventory and it's being ordered from a mother warehouse and getting full from there over 72 hours or 100 hours or so and so forth, right? That makes the whole process more inefficient. It's not just now, but also upcoming few hours that is to be kind of read through. The other part of this, right? So imagine now you've placed the order. There is another store on the opposite end has received the order. There is someone who's going to pick and pack that order as well. There has to be a verification of that, whether the right product which has been ordered has actually been picked, packed, and shipped, right? At the first store, the customer is actually undecided where it has to be delivered. The entire flexibility on delivery organization. The store guy has to be able to have that flexibility, whether the product needs to come to his store, the product needs to go to the customer's residence, entering data for that customer, having a sense on what are the right addresses for various customers, the whole geotagging process. This third part is also from a customer experience standpoint, right? Look at it when you go to a store, when you need something urgently. You need two things in that process, right? One is you need to have the ability to kind of have real-time information on where your product is, right? And how much time is it going to take to kind of get it delivered to you. Second, if there are any payment requirements to be done at the time of delivery, that whole flexibility on payment ecosystem has to be kind of established. Third, if at all you don't like it, right, and you've prepaid it, or you've done all the formalities towards it, the entire process of being able to return it or exchange it is also another requirement. At all these various steps, right, when you look at it, there is decision making involved, and this decision making can only be enabled by technology. And that is my limited take on where I see that technology is needed for this whole omni-channel ecosystem to be successful. Companies have been kind of using crude methods of uh, phone calls, imagery verifications, etc. But that's not really solving 100% of the problem. That's getting you closer to solutions by 70-80%, but it's not really solving 100% of the problems. And that balance error rate is actually costing a lot.
Okay, interesting.
Anil, I want to quickly come in here. That, I just make a quick, comment on that, on the technology piece. And I think the question is not whether technology will solve it or which technology is required and which is more appropriate. I think the real challenge that we are dealing with over here is that we have to deal with an assemble of technologies. See, this is not a one single technology. See, if you look at the question there is a part that deals with the basic ERP, the enterprise resource planning system, which just lays down very fundamental architecture. Then there will be some elements of a planning engine or a forecasting engine that will come over there. Then there will be some elements of demand sensing. Then there will be some elements of artificial intelligence that are coming in. So this is not just one platform that will solve for all the problems of the omni-channel space. There will be different platforms, there will be different solutions. And the problem to solve here is how to make them interoperable. Okay. Now, one thing that defines the omni-channel is that there are multiple players to it. It's not a single player end to end. Now, different players will be using different platforms, different softwares. Some of them will be legacy softwares. So how do you integrate those different platforms, different softwares is what the key is, because you're trying to create an end-to-end seamless experience, but you don't have one platform. You have an assemble of platforms. Lot of software, lot of platforms talking to each other. So getting them to harmonize, getting them to automate, that is where the maximum effort of getting an end-to-end digitally enabled omni-channel experience, that is what is yet to be solved. I think once that is done, then of course, then the experience for the customer becomes a unified or a seamless experience. That was the only thing that I just wanted to add.
No, very, very valid point, Ravi. Thank you very much. Sebastian, you have something to say, right? Your hand is up.
Yeah, so Anil just wanted to add to what the others have already said. So the other part that I think, and it's a personal view here, is that the complication that is involved in creating an omni-channel IT solution across sectors, for fashion, apparel, for grocery, for quick commerce. I think in the question that is being asked by the audience, they've taken some of the larger names. But my gut feeling is that it will be niche SaaS players who will come up with sector-specific solutions, which will actually work out and that's where all the successful examples have come. Wherever the IT has so far been successful in apparel, in footwear, in quick commerce, it has been smaller SaaS players who have been able to deliver it because there is so much of detailing that is required.
Understood and appreciated.
Anil, just to top on what Derek was saying was that different industries will have to look omni-channel very differently. Like omni-channel, being an omni-channel is not a choice; it's a journey. Like I said, currently an organization can be 50% offline, 50% online, and then they're trying to do an omni-channel, whereas an organization can be 20% and 80%. Offline, online, and then they're trying to amalgamate. So the strategies will be very different. An organization like ours, which is mostly an retail driven the organization, we are also planning to start, we are also have started a D2C. So a omni-channel strategy for us will be very different. And what life cycle is an organization is in terms of their omni-channel presence will devise what strategy that they need in terms of technological advancements. But as Derek rightly said, that there have been a lot of niche SaaS players. A very small example of track and trace, which is a very important part in omnichannel. There are plethora of track and trace niche players who have been solving to an organization's needs. Like you said, is it a snitch of the rich? Bigger organization can definitely afford that, right? But a smaller organization might not be able to afford expensive technological solutions. But currently, the framework and the overall environment is such that we do have a lot of niche players, which provides organizations at respective life cycles the different technological solutions that are needed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would just like to come to Rishabh quickly and ask him, as a service provider, I mean, where does he use technology the most in an omni-channel supply chain environment?
So, Anil, just to add upon the previous point, right? So at Shiprocket, what we are like, as everyone mentioned, right, the technology part of it, right? So the niche part is already been taken care by the newer SaaS players, right? But what Shiprocket comes with a layer which integrates with all the niche players, right? In terms of, if I would say, we have like kind of integrated with different number of last mile or courier service providers and aggregated that particular volume, right? And similarly in the WMS, the warehousing management system as well, what we are trying to do is basically integrating each and every WMS or the customized WMS for different companies out there, and integrated so that the communication between the courier service provider will be seamless between the WMS and the last mile or the courier service providers tech, right? So this is how we are kind of trying to solve the problem. And yeah, so coming back to your question, I guess you have asked me around the tech implementation for, if you can pardon me.
User experience of tech. I mean, as a user, as a delivery company, where all do you use what kind of tech do you use the most?
So as a user experience, currently what we are trying to do the granular kind of detailing for the traceability or the trackability for the customer, right? So that they will be able to showcase that the in terms of delivering on time, right? And able to drop off, like decrease the RTO percentages or the COD deliveries that are coming. So these are the experience that we are currently tackling in Shiprocket right now.
Right. Thank you. We have one or two more questions. One is from Mr. Prabhu of Breaks India. How product life cycle and inventory management in overall supply chain can be manageable using IoT/blockchain technology, product life cycle from initial to phase out, inventory management from raw material to excess stock. So anybody wants to take a stab at this? This is an overarching, a large question. So just two lines on if somebody would like to add. I see Sebastian smiling.
Yeah, so it is a very big question to answer in such a small time. So yeah, but where these activities will be used, and especially on the retail side, I think the collection of data both at the multiple channels that we have, whether it is a POS data at stores, the POD data when we are delivering to the customer, the proof of delivery, those kind of are the areas where that data getting created and sent back at the time of ordering of raw materials, manufacturing of products, how much to manufacture, what is selling. I think that is where this information is going to be primarily be used. In the journey in omnichannel, at least in the customers that we have been dealing with, we have not seen that level of maturity right now. We are still at the stage where we are integrating the inventory, having common inventory, delivering it, and then just about collecting data. I think the question that comes up is that, can we use this data to take it a step behind the supply chain line and also include it into the manufacturing line? So can this be taken one step beyond? It is definitely possible. Data is available. And at some point, definitely the larger companies will decide to do it. But today, I think we are still a few steps behind or away from that.
Thank you.
I'd like to answer a more direct response to that question of life cycle management. And I think both the technologies that were asked in the question, whether it is blockchain or IoT, these provide you very transactional level data. For example, if it is IoT, they will give you where that product is in space and time. Okay. Blockchain addresses a totally different kind of a problem, which is about trust, which is about creating a data point which is trustworthy. At both the levels, you're talking about transactions, but the question around lifecycle management or a product life cycle, these are more strategic in nature. So while these transactional level data points will eventually add up in creating a long-term data, which is that pans around many years, which is the time frame we're talking about when we're looking at life cycle management. So my response is it'll have no direct impact because the question that we are trying to answer is it's more strategic in nature. You look at product history, you look at competitors in the market, you look at your throughputs, what is your profitability from that product, where is that product in your portfolio? That's a different discussion altogether. So in my view, there is no direct impact on these technologies and product life cycle in your life cycle management. Thank
you. There's one peculiar question on the chat which says, what should a retailer do to optimize omni-channel strategy with the millennials and generation alpha being the new customer? And what are the possible challenges faced in that strategy? So anybody would like to add value or I know it's a difficult question again.
Yes, so Anil, so I have a few examples in the customers that we handle. So basically, I think the challenge over here is that in the next stage of this omni-channel one, throughout COVID, first we ensured that we had multiple channels. Then we ensured that multiple channels have common inventory that the customer can use. And now post-COVID, the challenge really is to give common user experience or customer experience across all channels. And I think that is a little bit of the question that comes, that if a client is delivering on Flipkart and Myntra, also delivering on their own site, also on the store, how do you ensure that on-site delivery happens in 5 days when Myntra is doing next day delivery? Those kind of questions. And these are in the modern age, when customers see differences in service levels, there is instant reaction from the millennials on the sites. So it comes with that. I think the strategy from a lot of the customers will have to change. There is obviously a cost benefit in omni-channel. There's an inventory benefit in omni-channel. But eventually, if you go back to the actual definition and the structure that Varun had shown, omni-channel was actually built to create a common user experience or a customer experience across all channels. So that is the only way of handling the situation at a point where the customer delivers seamless, similar brand experience in a store, in e-commerce, in their own site, in a marketplace. That's the only way to handle these kind of issues.
Yeah, very well answered, Sebastian. Thank you very much. I have one more question from Amity, Dr. Smriti. How does the inventory optimization model work with dark stores and Blinkit models coming up? So I think the question, if I rephrase, is that the Blinkit or the dark store model is that the same inventory is kept at multiple places, smaller stores kept at multiple places. How does the inventory optimization happen at that level? I guess, since I did a small program in Move on this, my answer would have been that most of the dark stores or Blinkit models do not encourage the entire SKU mix to be put on their model. So they pick out inventory items which are anyways very fast moving. They limit their offering to items which can move very fast, and that's how they take care of the optimization and best before date issues, and they focus only on stock, on very fast moving items. And the basket, the product basket is basically based on IoT or whatever whatever their data says that people would need in 15-20 minutes. Only those SKUs are placed in dark stores and Blinkit models.
Yep. So Anil, I'll just add to that. So we do handle some of these clients. So the assumption that they want to optimize inventory right now is wrong. I think the reason why they're doing these dark stores and why they have 40 stores, 50 dark stores in every city is because these organizations are currently focusing on availability. The key criteria is availability. If a customer orders, it has to be there available within the same pin codes. Right now, inventory optimization is not the priority for them.
Okay, great. So I have
many of the
4 minutes
organizations.
left.
Sorry, just one point.
Yeah.
Many of the organizations are not holding all the inventory, like you said, in dark stores. Like they have tie-ups with the local kirana stores who are handling many of the some of the inventories of, let's say, class C, class B SK type of SKUs, and some of the class A SKUs inventory is being handled at the dark stores. So these kind of mixed model is also helping them have the plethora and manage the inventory also.
But the question was that how is it managed at dark stores? So that's why I kept it to that. I know the retail side of it is also, implementing. There are a lot of apps and all which have come on to give it to, kirana shops and retailers where they can put their inventory onto a system and, it is visible to the customers. But again, as somebody brightly pointed out, it's a time for integration and consolidation. So there'll be a consolidation of touch points and there will be an integration of technologies which will actually happen and deliver a seamless experience. So Varun, last question to you. There are 3 questions and I think there is a customer line for you there. So if you can identify who's asked this question, Shyam, Varun will get in touch directly and maybe KPMG can solve all the questions, but I'll put the questions out there. What should be what should a retailer do to optimize omni-channel strategy? Question number 2. With the millennials and alpha customers, what are the possible challenges faced? This is a repeat question. And how does inventory optimization work with dark stores? So this is a consolidation of the 3 questions. And Shyam, if you can share with Varun who's asked these questions, maybe Varun has his next customer lined up.
Sure, sir. I'll find out and come back. Yeah.
So if if Dr. Bhanu is not joining, I'll just quickly sum up and we have 2 minutes.
Sure.
So, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining in. Thank you, Ravi, for joining in on audio. I know your schedule changed and you couldn't be on video and you're traveling. Thank you very much for making the effort. What I was able to gather from this very intelligent panel and an intelligent audience asking intelligent questions is that omni-channel one is here to stay. So we better start looking at it very, very seriously. Secondly, there is going to be a consolidation of touch points and integration of technologies. So be careful what channels you get into, because tomorrow that channel might not be there itself. So think through whether that channel works for your product. And as Sebastian said, look out for niche SaaS sector specific technologies which can help you create this experience. So with that, and on time at 12:59, I would like to wrap up this session. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
So we'll
Thank
break
you.
for